1,000 feet. Use the right 2 lanes to keep right.
All right. Hey, friends, it is Wednesday, August 11, 2021. Are you ready to prepare to go there? I hope you are. I am. My name is Peter, and it has been a joy going on this extended coaching journey with you, helping friends and leaders alike stay focused practically on the future, and then work on leading themselves there tactically day by day. So we talk a lot about things like self-leadership and preparation, and really just the unnoticed and I think the necessary preparation that goes into leadership. It is really the overlooked conversation in the leadership space. A lot of people want to focus on the public side of leadership, but there is a private side to leadership as well, the personal side, and that is self-leadership. Can you lead yourself? And then when you do, are you going somewhere that other people want to follow? So welcome back to the Future Frontier, where we're having a lot of fun day by day. I've realized that most people don't know how to lead others into a better future, simply because they don't know how to lead themselves there first. And so I'm on a mission to encourage friends and leaders, really the emerging leaders, to keep going on that preparation journey. It's going to take a lot longer than you want, but it's really mission critical that you're working on your character, your core competencies, and that you're really building a bench of, friends and mentors that are going to go the distance with you. So I really just appreciate all the future friends out there that are figuring this out, and you're willing to put in the work even when it goes unnoticed. And this really is a lifelong pursuit. It has to be a lifestyle approach. It's not a class, a book. It's not a seminar. It's not even a one-time thing or an event. It can have all of those components in it, but it really comes down to you doing the work when no one is around. And so this is me just trying to pay it forward and just trying to fuel your focus. That's why I'm here right now. That's why I'm showing up for you. I hope you're showing up for you too. I want to help you fuel your focus. And a lot of times the conversations that we have or that we listen to do influence our concentration. And I just want to be fuel to your focus. I just want to keep this conversation in front of you. I want to help you keep your future on the front burner, like I say before. So if this is something that interests you and you really do want to take this call to action personally, you're like, hey, I want to focus practically on the future. I don't want to procrastinate. I don't want to delay. I don't want to, drift off track. I don't want to drag my feet. I don't want to just drop off the map. I really want to show up every day and do something intentional, even if it's incremental, to prepare myself for that future, to push myself and to see growth, not by what I'm forcing or faking, but just facilitating that awesome process that happens with our journey. And you're like, I'm down with the mindset, but I also need the skill sets. I need to figure out some strategies or some tactics that can help me make the most of my day-to-day, that can help me stay organized, maybe help me like launch out and do something new. If this conversation resonates with you, then I want you to join the coaching journey that we're on. I want you to be a part of the email community. I want you to be a part of the Future Friends. The Future Friends are getting weekly emails of all this content. So I write blogs and then I do these live streams right now. And I want to get them to you week by week. And then the Future Friends are also getting the info and incentives for the coaching projects and the coaching course that is going to be coming out soon. And the Future Friends just have access to this amazing group of emerging leaders. And I'm just blown away by the relationships that I've been able to meet and make over time with people that are doing phenomenal things. It is amazing what people are capable of when they don't need a lot of supervision or permission, so to speak, that they're very content just to be productive. They're very content just to go be creative. They're very content just to, lead themselves. They don't need a lot of fanfare. They don't need a lot of hand holding. They just want to go do some great things. And they have many of the Future Friends that I know, they have a sense of calling. They are mission minded. They're definitely thinking about how to serve others. And a lot of the times they have great passion. Maybe they have great vision. But when you have that visionary impulse, you have to balance it or at least build some structure around it. So that way you're optimizing that gift mix. And you can do that in a few different ways. Obviously, you can staff it. You can get a team around you that can kind of where you can delegate some weaknesses. Or another approach is that you just create a value for some of those mission critical parts that don't just help you be a better leader, but help you just do life better. And so I really am inspired by the idea that privates become generals. And so what we do in our personal life does show up in in our teams and in the causes we take on, in the movements that we want to be a part of. And so I'm here for you. I really want you to feel this support. I've been showing up 37 times consecutively, and I'm looking forward to keep going. I've got a few ideas of how I can improve the live stream. I'll be kind of sharing some of that at the 50-yard line, or the 50th episode, so to speak. Just some tweaks I'm going to be making, but I made a commitment to myself. I'm just going to keep showing up, even if it feels redundant. I'm going to use the same intro and the same script, and I'm going to just keep building in that consistency. And then, if I get to number 50, which I was committed to do, then I'll have some proof of concept, and that'll give me a little bit more permission to try to expand and level up and improve. So I'm definitely looking forward to the 50th one for sure. I want to give you a gift. It is a free fail-proof planning guide. This is a PDF that you can download instantly. So that way you can have a proven planning process, right? A proven step-by-step framework that's going to help you look out at the future and think more agile, less fragile. So when you look out, you're not just saying, oh man, I don't know what's going to happen. Everything feels unpredictable. Maybe I should play it safe. Maybe I should just, go with the flow. And it kind of, generally speaking, it causes you to lean back. But I hope that this tool helps you lean forward, where you take ownership and you make decisions, and and you go for it. And that's what this is all about. So name and email will get you into the Future Friends email community. You can go through this guide. I'm very, very thankful for the way it came out, and it's been helping a lot of people. I wanted to help you too. If you are a future friend, you're out there watching right now, go ahead and say hi in the chat. Let me know where you're watching from. And we're going to get into today's topic, which is all about how to gamify your future, specifically your personal growth. Your personal growth. I think we all know it's good to develop our capacity, but it's not always fun. And so we get started with this sense of inspiration, but we don't really have the motivation to follow through. And I'm convinced that if you will just enjoy the journey you're already on, and you just stay focused on your future and where you're going, you're going to look up and you're going to say, wow, look at how much ground I covered. And when you learn how to enjoy the journey, you will win the end game, the long game. Now, the long game is, generally speaking, a patient process, right? You have to be patient with the results. And you're saying, I know that this is going to take some time, but I'm willing to invest some steps up front that will ultimately set me up later on, right? It's that idea of delayed gratification. It's that idea that what I do today is going to improve and even leverage what I do one day. And that's a different mindset. That's more of a future present mindset than a past present mindset. You're not feeling behind. You're content to show up every day because you are literally already years in the future. And so you don't feel rushed. You don't feel behind. I mean, you don't have anything better to do than to work on your future. It's what's coming straight at you. And we know that the future won't pioneer itself. So we're willing to keep showing up, to do this work, to focus on our character, focus on our competency, focus on our community, knowing that all of these pieces and more are going to force multiply into an unforgettable story and hopefully a meaningful legacy that others want to follow. So how do you actually grow or gamify your personal growth, right? How do you make that part of preparation fun? I mean, I know we know the obvious things, which we're going to talk about: reading books, podcasting. But let's be honest. I mean, how many books have we started that we didn't finish? It seems like in some spaces, the answer to all leadership questions should be found in a book. And it's not always the case. I'm a big book guy. I have a lot of books. I just got a bunch of thrifted books, which was amazing. 12 for $1. So you can imagine, how many I could get. But having said that, there are some other ideas, some other tactics that you can try and apply and multiply to gamify your personal growth. And for me, working on myself is more like a hobby now. It's fun. I mean, I enjoy the transformational process. I really enjoy it. And even though I may not be very good at all these areas of personal life and personal growth or health or whatever, I have a little bit of a game now. I have a process where I can get good at that process and then apply that same process in all these different areas of my life. So hopefully we'll be able to pass that on to you. Let me know what you are doing to gamify your personal growth. Y'all, you have to make this fun. It's got to be fun. Otherwise, you're going to quit. You're going to get bored. You're going to try something else. I think the shiny object syndrome is one of the worst things that we can fall into. It's definitely a trick. It's a trap. It's pretty lame. We we don't mean to, but in our passion to improve, we say, well, maybe that clickbait is going to lead to, my 10x life, or no, maybe that book is going to take me to my, millionaire morning, maybe this thing, that thing. And we're just kind of hunting and pecking. And I'm all down for getting resources and getting coaching and, involving other people in your development. But when we get distracted and we're always bouncing from here, there, everywhere, we're losing. We may feel like we're winning in the short run, but we're really losing the long game. And the long game requires us to have that confidence and the patience to say, I'm gonna stick with this. Doesn't mean I'm not gonna course correct here and there. You think about driving, you got the steering wheel. You don't just hold the steering wheel completely stiff and get to your destination. I mean, even if you're going on the same road, you're constantly making these small, minute or minor micro adjustments, right? You're just maybe shifting a little bit to the right, a little bit to the left. You're actively engaged in the process. Even though it feels a bit passive, you're still engaged. You're making these micro adjustments, a little bit to the right, a little bit to the left. Sometimes, bigger shifts to change a lane, to, exit, on ramp, whatever. Obviously, you have to have a measure of situational awareness, but that needs to feel like your personal growth, that you are engaged in this process, that you are willing to make these minor adjustments as you go, but realizing that small tweak isn't enough. It's the journey, right? It's the long game that's you're really a part of, that you're really on. So I thought of a few things that I could pass on to you in the remaining time that we have. Simply put, I want to have a lifestyle of learning. That's pretty much what it all comes down to. And I'm going to read this quote from Abraham Lincoln, legendary leader. He said, "Give me 6 hours to chop down a tree, and I will spend the first 4 sharpening the axe." Now, this is a very common, business adage. It came from another leader of leaders, Stephen Covey. He's got great books. You can check him out. But he talked a lot about, keeping your edge. How do you keep your edge as a leader? He talked a lot about putting in the work to sharpen the saw. That was kind of his expression. I don't know if he got it from this quote or somewhere else, but how do you work on your personal growth, right? You have to actually gamify that process. You have to figure out how to make it fun. And one of the ways we like to make things fun is you have to have like a reward. You have to have a win. What's the win? What are you going for? And when you know what the win is, you've intentionally set that goal. And then at some point, you're going to intentionally celebrate that goal as well. So you need to make some intentional goals for your personal growth. Like, how do you want to grow personally? What do you want to learn? What do you want to try? How do you want to level up? Being just clear, answering that question honestly and directly, you got to figure that out. How are you going to figure that out? Do you need to get away? Do you need to get alone and kind of think it through, write it down? Sometimes we get clarity when we are quiet. Other times we get clarity when it's just coming candidly in a conversation. There are some things we will come to by ourselves and only by ourselves. There are other things, other insights that require us to go somewhere, to get on site, to get insight, so to speak, where we are there, third dimension, with someone else. We're having the dialogue. We're being honest. We're getting the diagnosis, and we're making discoveries as we go. And that's because you are sharing and leveraging different skill sets, different points of view. So it's all good. But giving yourself time to work on your personal growth, to grow personally, it needs to be an intentional goal. You got to make intentional goals. And so I would say don't, aim at 14 different personal growth goals. Get one or maybe two down and go after them with everything you've got. Like in this quote, he said, if I had 6 hours to do the job, I would spend the first 4 hours sharpening the axe. That's crazy to me. That's a crazy concept. I mean, just imagine if any other task were not hours, but years. Let's say, give me 6 years to take on this thing. I'll spend the first 4 years getting ready for it. Like, most people don't think that way. Most people don't try that way. But the implication here is by doing preparation, it accelerates the job. It force multiplies your effectiveness, that the results are far, far greater than having not done it. So being willing to work on yourself, to work on your personal growth, I say your future is your full-time job. That's just my opinion, but I believe your future is your full-time job, and then everything else is a ripple effect of some sort of what you've been doing when no one's looking. I mean, your biggest secret weapon should be happening in secret, right? You should be working on the value of you. My mom would tell me, Peter, tens don't follow fives. Tens don't follow fives. I think that's pretty amazing. That's a really insightful thing. Like, how are you investing in the value, not just that you're going to have, but that you're going to give away? We invest in ourselves so we can give more of ourselves away. We invest in ourselves so that way we can have more to offer to the world around us, to the needs around us, to the challenges, to the problems around us. Like, if we want to go the distance, make a difference, we've got to be able to have something to give. We've got to be working on ourselves. So another thing that's coming to mind is just the importance of consistency, the importance of repetition. I love this quote. I think I heard it from a guy named Rory Vaden, maybe. Vader? No, it's not Darth Vader. But anyways, that was a joke. I heard this quote. It says, your repetition will become your reputation. Your repetition becomes your reputation. Another quote, I don't know why today is just Quotable Wednesday, but another quote was from Craig Rochelle. He says, successful people do consistently what average people do occasionally. So for me, I really don't mind repeating myself. In fact, I kind of have to. It takes me a few times to really register. It takes me a while to get in a rhythm. But once I'm in a rhythm, then I'm unstoppable. And you can actually stack your wins, right? You can build off of your habits. So like if you've got one solid habit that is really foundational, it's very close to your identity, and it's helping you like forming your identity. So for me as a Christian, that would be my time with the Lord. And it's a very real, relational, dynamic moment in my day. It's not static. It's not, it does involve reading scripture, but it's more than that. It's definitely dialogue. And there's a lot of like just personal discovery. There's a lot of just growth, honestly, that comes out of that place, because I'm admitting that I need help. I'm getting rid of limiting beliefs, and I'm owning new ideas, new identity pieces that really show up in my confidence, and then later on in my competence, my ability to live and lead. So getting that foundation, getting that kind of core habit right took me a while. It took me a few months after a few years of trying it out, wondering if it was, important enough to kind of make a rule in my life. And man, after a few months, it was like habitual. It was easy. It was not even an option. It wasn't like an either or, yes, no thing. It was just like, let's go do this. And then it just kind of got hardwired into my habits. And then now that I've got that rhythm, I can build on another habit. I can and you kind of do this habit building thing, or this rhythm stacking thing. And another little tactic is using time blocks, but that's not really the topic for today. So making this fun is being willing to make a game out of consistency, to set that goal. I'm going to do this every day, or I'm going to do this every week, or I'm going to keep showing up. And then making a game and literally counting how you're doing, keeping score. Because when you're keeping score, you just are more engaged with the game. And I mean, over the years, I've been counting a little bit of everything. I was counting how many books I was reading, counting, how many times I would work on a hobby or a project. I mean, you're constantly evaluating and celebrating your progress. And you really do have to know your numbers to do that. You have to be aware of what's important, and then you have to stick to it. And so your repetition over time will become your reputation. It starts with you. It starts underground. All real growth starts underground. And I use that as more of a metaphor of just seeing plants and trees everywhere. But what a parallel for us, that I don't think you should just be broadcasting the things you're working on or working towards up front. Like, just is it personally meaningful to you? Just do it because it's personally meaningful to you. Um, I'm not at all, knocking on anybody's method. If it works, keep doing it. But for me personally, I'm not going to be the guy who's just like giving you the, day by day, play by play on every step I'm taking. Number one, I can't keep up with that. Number two, I don't find motivation by other people knowing, my hits and misses or my daily stats. To me, I'm content just to continue on my own. That might be a little bit of, my wiring, or I think it's just a level of contentment because I know I'm gonna bore people or burn people out before I actually finish this journey, this whatever it is, So consistency can become a game in and of itself. You can have fun tracking how you're doing. I'm going to pivot for a little bit. Another way to approach your personal growth is look for people that are doing something that inspires you or something that you identify with. You say, man, I could really see myself being good at that, or I could really see myself enjoying that kind of work, or, that kind of thing. Man, I really admire how they've done that. And you'll never find someone who's got like the total package for you. Instead, you'll find pieces, right? Parts. I like this aspect of that person's life and this aspect of another person's life. I'm talking about, just the people in your social circle. And then what you want to do is you want to try to initiate conversations, initiate friendships where they just begin to mentor or they just begin to model that thing up close. So you're learning and you're just celebrating them. And I've just found if you celebrate other people, they want you around. If you're willing to encourage other people and identify what's working in their life, man, they're not going to push you away. They're going to take that. They're going to appreciate it. And there's something really valuable that happens with us when we adopt and adapt a lifestyle of learning. We're willing to learn from everywhere. I mean, as many places as possible. We can learn an example of what to do. We can learn an example of what not to do. But I would much rather learn from someone else's time investment than try to figure that out on my own, try to make my own time investment. Hanging out with one person, maybe I could download decades of life experience just in a few days hanging out with that person. And so you got to be really intentional about being relational when it comes to your personal growth, because really your friends do influence your future. And so I talk a lot about Future Fridays, and kind of the bonus round of having a great Future Friday is hanging out or interacting with some future friends, talking about what you're excited about, talking about what you're working on, talking about, just things that you're thinking through or working on. And then over time, you begin to curate all of these conversations, and it can really broaden your worldview. It can really help you out in some wonderful ways. So get some mentors or find some moments that keep you on the path. Podcasting is massive. Reading is really helpful. I'll definitely jump on YouTube and learn from places I can. I think when it comes to finding and filtering for personal growth, you could do it in two ways. One, you could do it in more of a soundtrack approach where You're doing life, you're doing some of the mundane things of life, and you just have it playing in the background. You just have it kind of going. And to be honest, my format, my strategy is I kind of figured people would kind of do that with this. And I wanted to build at least in some form, some sort of rapport and relationship with folks. So they over time they would say, it's not like Peter's saying anything new per se, but I just appreciate that he is, figuratively keeping company with me. And this is something that's important to me. This is something I want to continue in. And there's always some content waiting. And so that soundtrack approach is really helpful when you're podcasting. Not as helpful for reading books. For me, that would be difficult to read just like 2 or 3 pages here and then, wait a little bit and go there. Maybe you can do that. It definitely works if it's on your phone. You can pull it out and you can get a few blogs or a few articles or a few whatever. I have a great friend and he will just have tabs. He'll just make tabs on his phone. And then whenever he's kind of stuck in a holding pattern, he'll just pull it out and just kind of digest it. That's great. That's making the most of your time. That's really good. But soundtrack is one little model is where you're listening to podcasting or learning content of some sort. A lot of content fits into those 2 categories. Y'all have already heard this. Sean Cannell says it's education or entertainment. And so balance that. If you want to gamify your personal growth, don't feel entitled to just watch entertainment all the time. In history, in American history, there was this thing called the gold rush. Everybody went to California and other places because they expected gold. They were looking for gold. And some of them got it and some of them didn't. Some of them got fool's gold. And I think that's what's happening. We're kind of in a digital gold rush right now. A lot of people are running to the internet because, man, we can have the wealth of knowledge. I mean, the world's knowledge is at our fingertips. And that's just such a crazy concept. We're in one of the biggest social experiments, and it's not over yet. And that could go in a lot of fun and crazy directions. But the point I'm trying to make is here you have literally free knowledge in many cases. I mean, people are learning how to speak foreign languages. People are learning how to code. People are learning all kinds of things. And yet, just because there's not an appetite or there's not an awareness, or maybe there's just not an action plan, they just kind of default on more mindless entertainment, things that really aren't enriching them, nourishing them. And then the irony is you watch hours of this kind of content and then you actually feel drained afterwards. So it's actually taking more of your time, not just the time you're spending to engage with this content, but then afterwards, now you're even more zapped. And so it's putting you a little bit more behind. So for me, entertainment is cool, but I try to approach it more as a social mechanism, in the sense that it's something I can do with friends. It's something I can do with my wife. I mean, we're going to enjoy. So the focus is the relationship or the social moment, not that I feel so entitled that I have to watch, this thing, because I mean, that's kind of silly to me. So the education piece is really, really powerful, getting that education. And I'm all for deep dives. I'm all for just kind of going after it and pairing something to listen to while you're doing something a little bit more mundane. Now, maybe you can drive and listen to something at the same time. That's cool. Stay very safe. You never want to get distracted. You never want to start zoning out. So you got to keep a check on that. But pairing it with, maybe you're mowing or maybe you're cleaning around the house, that is a powerful way to just keep up an appetite for, leveling up. The other approach is not the soundtrack approach, where you can kind of go a little longer in an everyday sense, just listening to things in the background while you're doing life. But the next strategy would be, for lack of a better phrase, I'll just call it the seminar approach. The seminar approach is not the soundtrack approach. The seminar approach is where you actually get out of your normal space where your normal everyday demands are, and you focus intentionally on your growth, right? You focus intentionally on what you need to learn. This is where it's more potent, more concentrated. This is, some people, they go camping, they get in nature and they're like, I'm unplugging so that way I can really get quiet and get clear. Some people, they go to conferences. There's different ways to approach this, but really getting away with the express purpose of figuring out, how am I doing? What do I need to focus on now? Where do I want to be next? I think really starting your calendar with those kind of big rocks in mind are mission critical. Because if you don't set those kinds of things up front, then you'll absolutely get robbed of those opportunities later. And it's so silly to me, and really sad when you think about what we trade for those kind of moments. Like, you could have invested the weekend in a very potent, meaningful, growth weekend, some sort of conference or some sort of getaway. And just because we were absent-minded, or just because we were being more reactive than proactive, we end up trading the exact same weekend for something worthless, something that was just so petty. And you're like, hey, what did you do this weekend? And it was like so non-epic. It was just kind of like, not much, just hung out, just went to the grocery store 4 times because, I didn't have a shopping list. I mean, just something silly. When instead you could have said, man, I really wanted to make a moment. I wanted to get ahead. I wanted to grow. I went to this conference. I hung out with these amazing friends. I got to interview someone who was doing something I want to do in the future. I mean, you can really make valuable moments for you. You can't always just spur the moment, go rush off and find them. But if you give yourself a little bit of a head start, you'll definitely get there. I want to talk about books because books are a big part of personal growth. I do enjoy reading. I do not consider myself a speed reader by any means. And I know that that's kind of like a whole thing where, people are very into their personal growth and they're just like book. I think that's great. That's really cool. I don't mind trying that myself. But for me, I have just won by reading over the long run. I have always enjoyed a ebb and flow of reading and writing. So for me, my little framework, my little process to stay focused on personal growth is, there are just some times where I'm reading much more rapidly. I'm just kind of like in a reading mode, and I'm just going to lean into that. I'm going to lean into that season, I guess, where either the book is super good or The time allows for it. And I'm going to just try to rush into that. And then I try to use that initial momentum to build in the habit of going a little bit longer. But inevitably, it will kind of wane here or there. It might just happen over a few weeks where I'm just kind of tapering off or whatever. And at that time, I just kind of lose out a little bit. I don't get frustrated. Instead, I lean into something of a writing phase. It's not something I try. It's just something I've noticed that I've been doing over time. And I'll do that for a while. I'll be writing, I'll be journaling, I'll be creating great content. And the irony, once again, kind of getting back into this idea of preparation and lifestyle of leaning forward, I would still think a big chunk of my own content is not published, because it doesn't have to be. Part of it's just not good. Part of it's personal. Part of it doesn't apply. Part of it's still kind of like cooking in the oven, so to speak. And that's okay. I have a whole approach, with Evernote, which I'm happy to share if somebody brings up that question. But for reading, I read a book where it's Spiritual Leadership by Oswald Sanders, and he talked about books in there, which was really cool. I think he was the one who said books are like people, in the sense that you have different relationships with them. Most of the books are going to be just good acquaintances. You read them casually, and you don't think much of it after that. You get the gist, you get the big idea, and you move on. I think to stay in the rhythm of reading, you have to go for speed. You have to get the big idea. You get a book and you start with the title. Okay, maybe you read a little bit about it. Then you go to the contents and you just start gathering the big idea. You're learning, you're just getting familiar with it. Then you could literally go page by page and just look for the headers and the subtitles. You're like, Peter, aren't you taking out the fun? And for me, I'm going to make an investment. So I want to see if it's worth that investment. And then when I've made the choice, yeah, there's enough in here that I value. I'm interested enough. I'm invested enough to do this. Then I just get after it. And there's normally a natural momentum that I can just lean into, and the time blocks will be there to support it. Then there are other books where they are close friends. And what I mean by that, and I think what the author meant by that, is these are books that you are going to go back to again and again, either for meaning, beauty, value, some sort of significance, or it's just going to be timeless. It's just going to have this timeless quality to it, where it helps you and it speaks to you in every season of your life. So reading books are very powerful. You may look back and notice that there's certain genres or certain categories that you like, and then you can begin to curate your books around that. That's cool. But the thing about personal growth is it's really not an attention-seeking practice. Personal growth is more of an organic process, right? It's more of a garden experience where you may not see the results of what you're doing in an immediate sense. And so you have to make the game more about the process, more about the journey, more about the inputs, and just be content that the results will show up. I'm not forcing that. I'm not faking that. I'm not trying to act like I'm further along than I am. I'm not trying to prove that I've got a lot of value in me. I mean, for me, I'm very thankful for just my own story. I'm very, very grateful. I'm very content. I feel like my own journey has, given me some really unique and needed things. And I hope, I really pray I don't sound cocky when I say this, but I really believe I have stuff that can help people. I really believe that I have something to offer that will improve people's lives, or even help teams, help organizations, help churches and movements. I don't take credit for that, but I also don't have to go around and try to push that on people. When I'm working with my friends and other leaders, I love just being a champion and just being an encourager of what they're doing. And I've realized that, I may have a strength in one area, but to imply that takes precedent or takes some sort of priority over their other strengths, I could wear out my welcome that way. So for me, what I try to do is just stay open-handed as well as open-minded, and I love the quote from Jim Collins. He says, "Be more interested than you try to be interesting." Be more interested than you try to be interesting. So for real, like, don't talk about yourself all the time. I know I just kind of did this little monologue about what how I feel I have value to share. But the reason I brought that up is because I want to model to you a mindset that if you are investing day in and day out, your preparation never stays private. It never stays private. It always starts private. I believe it should stay as private as possible, but your gift makes room for you. It will always clear out all of the clutter. And then at that point, you're going to be so thankful that you had just stayed focused on your long game and just really stayed focused on your personal growth. So, when it comes to personal growth, start with books, really start with people. Be really intentional about being relational with the right kind of people, not for what you can get only, but what you can glean from, celebrate who they are, and then they will open up, and they'll talk about what's working and how they've won in particular areas. Don't just hyper focus on all the thrills that you're trying to have in life, but have a balanced approach and get skills as well. Get some life skills. Have a good balance of focusing on character as well as competence. Those are different things, but both needed. Make consistency part of your game. Make that something that you track, something that you evaluate, you celebrate. Let me just think here. Enjoying your long game. The last thing I'll say is I've been thinking, just going through this series, about how do you play the long game, just in general. And that might be my next blog. But I was kind of wondering, it's like, man, I'm putting a lot of emphasis on playing the long game and preparing. I'm like going through all these steps. I'm building all these habits, and I'm trying to think long term. I'm trying to get a little bit more long term. Doesn't mean that I don't have to run around and finish a project at the last minute. But I think sometimes we think a lifestyle of preparation means that you always hit your due dates. That's not necessarily what I mean. Having a lifestyle of preparation means that you're leaning forward into the future to such a degree that sometimes you actually ignore what's going on here, and you're kind of foregoing some of the quote fun that you could be having, and it's again just that delayed gratification. So personal growth is amazing. It is so rewarding. It's very valuable. I can't encourage you enough to go for it. But anyways, I was kind of wondering, is it worth even playing a long game? I may not even have a long game to play. I made all the projects I'm working on, the dreams I'm working on. What if they don't even take off the runway? And I just had this kind of like personal moment of honesty. And I thought about it, and I just had this impression, or this knowing, I guess, that, there really will always be a long game if you're playing to win with intentionality and integrity. If you are choosing a lifestyle of intentionality, a lifestyle of integrity, there will always be a long game to play. Whether that's through your lifetime or your lifeline, you will always have a ripple effect that goes further than you can know. So never forfeit your long game. Never forfeit who you're becoming just to, try to get a few quick wins at what you're doing. I think I'll just land the plane there. This is a big conversation to have, but what I want you to hear is I really want you to enjoy the journey you're on, so that way you're not procrastinating your purpose, your passion, but you really are making the most of every day. And maybe, I don't know, I'm kind of throwing this out there with y'all, but maybe the long game, or the secret to having a great long game, is enjoying the game you're already playing, and not caring how long it takes you or how far it takes you. Just keep showing up, keep playing the same game again and again and again, instead of trying to create this, some sort of pyramid scheme, or some sort of, some sort of scam that you're going to pull off at some point, or some sort of heist you're going to do at some point. Like, don't live that way. Just live with intentionality, live with integrity, and you'll be shocked, how that really does win in the end for you. So, y'all, I really appreciate the time you've invested just to think about these things. Action steps would be: set an intentional goal for your personal growth, and then figure out a way to intentionally celebrate it when you get it done. There is a free fail-proof planning guide waiting on you. Just go ahead and click the link below, name and email, and you'll download it instantly. It'll help you move forward faster with the proven plan. And then I'd love for you to stay in this coaching conversation, join the email community. Please, I have not been saying this enough, but I need to practice saying this more. Subscribe, right? That's what you're supposed to do on YouTube. So subscribe, join the email community, be a part of this. Please, I really appreciate you giving me your feedback, letting others know that there is a space for friends and leaders to work on themselves together, to kind of take on the future with friends. And I'm really looking forward to the projects that are coming out real soon. I've got a coaching course that I'll be launching soon, and it's not going to be this kind of overflow of life skills and life lessons. It's going to be really strategic and structured, and help you take action, get some traction. So stay awesome. Remember, you are going places. And if you believe that you're going to make it happen today, you're going to prepare to go there.